Alessio, you are at the helm of World Athletics. Did the interest in running grow because you were an athlete yourself?
No, because I was never an athlete in the sense of professional athletes, but I've been a professional in this field since 2008, especially in a country like Italy. I come from there, in which it was all about football really, and a bit motorsport.
If I'm a race organizer, if I'm looking at a race, that my race should eventually also grow to become something that I'm proud of, what are some of the things that I should keep in mind?
In reality, there are no two races are similar in the world. This year at the Mumbai Marathon, I was very naive. I didn't expect the Indian running scene to be so sophisticated. Entertainment and the social impact is truly among the best in the world.
How the World Major Marathon comes together when you look at from your lens?
Yes, it is the holy grail of marathon running. None of them, not one single person anywhere in World Marathon Majors organization or in the different races does it for money. But all of them do it because they love the sport.
Hi everyone, this is Vikas and you are listening to Run with Fitpage. The conversation today talks about races, participative events. It talks about the growth of running events in the country and in the world overall. And for us to enlighten through this journey, we have discussion with Alessio Punzi, who is the head of mass participation and running at the World Athletics. He's been there for about a decade now and has done a great work in building the sport, in contributing to the sport globally. We will talk about what it takes to put together a world-class race. We will talk about various categories of races, and if you are a race organizer, what all you should keep in mind and the steps that you should take to take your race from point A to point B, if that is your success metric. Let's welcome Mr. Punzi to the show and learn all about what he has been up to in the running domain for the love of running. Let's go. Alessio, welcome to the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today.
Vikas, thank you for having me. I've been wanting to learn more about running in your part of the world for a bit, so it's a good opportunity to do that.
As we were discussing backstage, India is going through the running revolution, it seems. Almost every day I keep getting the new run clubs getting added onto our tech platform. And last I saw last year was we had about 450 run clubs. And this year alone, we have added 700 additional run clubs. So that shows the growth of where running is in India and what's the potential. And you are at the helm of World Athletics. You are heading road running and mass participation particularly. And so this topic of discussion becomes a lot more relevant. Let's go through in understanding what exactly you do at the World Athletics.
It's a good question whose answer is not as straightforward as you might think, because World Athletics is primarily a governing body for the sport of track and field, and I'm responsible for running. When I joined, my first title was road running manager, and it then morphed into head of running and mass participation. Now, you can probably see the activity of World Athletics, of any sports governing body, really, but athletics is especially paradigmatic in this, given how big the sport is and how broadly impactful on the society the sport is. So I would say every governing body does essentially three things. We stage our events, and we want to make the most of them. We want to maximize the value of our own properties. Then we want to grow the sport in a bunch of ways. This means various things, and we can dive into that in later if need be. And then we, as the governing body, we have to administer the sport. So there is the whole governance piece, anti-doping and integrity, course measurement and homologation, all those things. So my role is overseeing all processes and projects that, from the standpoint of road running, trail running, and to a lesser extent, masters athletics, and to a lesser extent, virtual running, which is starting to become a thing now, intersect on these three macro buckets, on these three lenses, if you wish. So the governance side of things, the growing the sport advocacy side of things, and the business side of things, the growing the properties that we have.
Got it. And on the business side of things, as well as community, it seems like the participation is growing much more than before. Is it globally, or is it that I'm seeing only in this part of the world?
No, it actually is global, Vikas, and there have been in the history of the sport, in the recent history of what we call road running, a few waves of growth, a few booms. Famously, the first one started in the in the US in the mid 70s, and then you had another one in the early 2000s, and then you had one mainly in Asia, China, in the early 2010s. But this time it's different for a couple of reasons. One is the sheer scale of it
Yeah.
coming after the pandemic. I mean, there are hypotheses on why this might be, but the most obvious probably is that at the pandemic, a bunch of people took up the sport and started to take an interest in their health, in their mental health especially, and then after a while they converted into event participants. So I was saying that it's massive in terms of scale, but also in terms of growth. From the standpoint of World Athletics, we are lucky enough to interact with a plethora of different countries and territories on a daily basis, and we do see the growth coming from all over the world, really. Places that you would least expect it. India, for sure. We you know one thing or two about that. But places such as Indonesia or Vietnam or Brazil or Mexico, the sport is booming. And even if you look at the established running markets, mature running markets more in Western Europe and North America, even there, certain categories of races might not be growing as vehemently as your average half marathon in India or in Indonesia, but the small races are growing, and there is a whole new vertical of trail races, off-road races, which, especially in these mature running markets, really are all the rage now, with lots of positive implications on the consumer side of things. Because to run a trail race, you need a different pair of shoes, and probably you need different equipment. So brands love that.
Yeah, indeed. I remember my conversation from a couple of years ago. I was in Boston just before the Boston Marathon, and we had the opportunity to sit down with Frank Shorter, M.B. Burford, George Hirsch, and a few others. I remember there were 6 Olympians, and MB and I, we were discussing about how the US revolution of running that went through like such a significant positive change in the 70s, and that was right after Frank Shorter came from his Olympics medal. And one of the things we were discussing, that this could a similar catalyst could also be possibly a way to pave the way for Indian running. But I was saying that I'm not sure India will get any close to getting a medal. I'm not even seeing we qualifying in the long distance runs in the Olympics, for example. But what I saw in the last 2 years is it's outstanding that people do not want to be as competitive for that matter, but they want to enjoy the sport. And that's exactly how it should be in certain ways. People want to be fitter. People want to enjoy this as a sport. And I've seen the average age of participation is reducing significantly here. Earlier, I would see a lot older people participating. And now I see that a lot younger, and they want a theme, they want a concept that they want to be part of in addition to running. And I think that's one way for it to become sustainable as well.
No, absolutely. Especially in places like India, where you're coming from, that are in a more advantaged position demographics-wise compared with others. Those race organizers, those organizations that will be able to instill the habits of running into the younger generations, they will have won, because they will have, if not customers for life, or at least a loyal cohort of people in the sport for life. And yes, it would be nice if India had an Olympian in the marathon. Not really my niche to comment on, not really my expertise. But don't forget that movements can start from different points of entrance. The U.S. running booms of the mid-70s, which then created the New York Marathon a few years after Frank Shorter's 1972 Olympic gold medal, that started as a predominantly elite movement. It was people who ran the track who then discovered the roads, and then it started from there. And you can still see this in the DNA of some races, which is a good thing. A Boston Marathon, you need to have a qualification time. Many races that Kerry Pinkowski from Chicago is incredibly track and performance focused. There are other models, though. In other parts of the world, races are started for different reasons by different entities, for different public goals or for different business goals. In Japan, it's mainly, historically, it was media outlets organizing races or universities. In India, apparently it's businesses who are able to convince governments of how good these races are for the communities that they impact. So yeah, even if you won't have an Indian Olympian in the marathon,
Yeah.
that really isn't a factor there. It shouldn't prevent the scene from growing fast.
Yeah, indeed, and hopefully it will get there one day. And we have been seeing in various boardrooms this has been a discussion. Can there be a high performance center for marathon? Can there be support, more long term sustainable support for elite runners? And hopefully something is coming soon, is from what I can see. Also on the participative side, the success metric for these runners, the participants, is so much different. I remember we started a small run campaign that was only women to come and run, and we said, come and find your safe space to express yourself. And we did a 5K run just last month, and we had 2,600 girls. They came to do a 5K run, and the last girl who I met, she came in 1 hour 20 minutes. And jokingly, I asked her, "Hey, you were out for long," and she took it as a compliment, saying that, "Hey, I spent the maximum amount of time on the route." She's like, "I enjoyed it." Yeah, she's like, just soaking it in, and I was on the route for the longest period, and she was very proud of it.
And that's so good, because the one measure that race organizers can do, nobody thinks about this, but the one measure that race organizers, and by extension communities, cities, can do to be inclusive, is to extend the cutoff time of races. Because if you have a marathon that lasts 12 hours, let's say a half marathon that lasts 5 hours, then all of a sudden you have people like my mom who will be like, yeah, maybe I will walk this. It's my opportunity to experience the city in different setting. And guess what? They're all clients. And even from the standpoint of brands, Asics, New Balance, they will have to sell, these people will have to buy shoes, no matter that they aren't really, running in the sporting sense of the term. They're still clients. Fortunately, this shift is happening. I mean, it has some challenges. City calendars get more and more crammed, and in some parts of the world, security is an issue. Cities are beginning to demand payments or to increase the payments, but yeah, an open city, an open race course is an inclusive race course.
Yeah, indeed it is. And for good, I'm continuing to see that there's more and more acceptance from the government in India. Just 2 hours ago, I got a note where in one of the government discussions, it's been decided to promote more and more sport-related startups and support them. And it seems the Prime Minister, he himself is going to lead it. I'll send you the note that came a couple of hours ago. And it was so good to see that he particularly is talking about management of sport. He's talking about technology about sport and saying that, okay, it needs to be supported all through. So it seems like the government is continuing to do a great job of enabling us to be able to go and put a show.
Happy days then. I mean, if they are serious, and they certainly are, about the prospect of hosting the Olympics one day, having the show is one thing, but you want to create the ecosystem that sustains that. You want to create a generation of sports manager, enlightened sports director, people like yourself, really, who understands the business and want to make an impact in it. And shout out to my alma mater, ASTS Lausanne, which has an outpost there in Mumbai, ASTS India, which is certainly contributing to training the next generation of Indian sports managers.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. And that brings me to the topic of, actually, this had been in my mind ever since we started. Before you came to the World Athletics, what were you doing? Were you again in the similar field? Did the interest in running grow because you were an athlete yourself, or what was your background that led you to come here? And before this, what were you doing?
Well, because I was never an athlete in the sense of professional athletes. I've always enjoyed playing sports, from basketball to cycling. That is my recreational sport alongside running. But I've been a professional in this field since 2008. By complete coincidence, I mean, I ended up studying sports administration, which 17 years ago was a fairly niche topic still, especially in a country like Italy. I come from there, in which it was all about football, really, and a bit motorsport. But I studied it, and I really like the idea of working internationally while sport, because I always was convinced that this truly is a universal language. Very cliche, but also very true, right? And then in 2008, I got my first job in the industry, in the Rome Marathon. I was lucky. I got lucky enough to start this when I was 22. very inexperienced, very naive. Social media were starting. Try to remember that in 2008, we were figuring out what to do with Facebook, which had just become a global thing, or Twitter was slightly more developed, but still very much unknown. So that was my first job, not specifically social media, but I was in the communications team of this marathon. And then one thing led to another. I loved the space. I wanted to work internationally. And in 2014, I did the STS because I love the governance side of things. And I wanted to understand how sports organizations can have a bigger impact, really. And certainly if you do that with a supranational coordination, the possibilities are much, much higher. So in 2014, I pursued my MSA, they call it, Master in Sports Administration, at the ASTS school in Lausanne. And from there, I went on to work for a little bit of time at the UCI, the World Governing Body for Cycling.
Yeah.
And then from there, I ended up at European Athletics, which is the area association, the World Athletics Area Association for Europe. Another stint at the Rock and Roll Marathon Series in the UK on the Liverpool and Dublin accounts. And then this opportunity with World Athletics came about at the end of 2016. I felt like a great place in which I could put together all the pieces of my education and network as well, because it's a people's business at the end of the day. And it went well, got a job, and we've been building ever since. It was a very different organization, though, when I joined. We're a much more sophisticated machine now in a number of ways, in countless ways, especially from a governance standpoint. So this truly is a great place to work now. And probably if you want to make an impact, everyone can make an impact. But if you are in a rule-making body, not at the top, but like in this overarching umbrella organizations that sports federations are, you certainly can make probably more of an impact on a global basis. And that's what fuels me and my 100+ colleagues on a daily basis.
Nice. It's been about 9-10 years of you being here and making the difference one day at a time. Thank you for doing that, because it also impacts us as organizers and runners both alike. And here's a question that also comes in my mind, that is, this entire ecosystem of world athletics, and within that, road running, mass participation, how all of this comes together, if you would take some time in explaining this to people, because we as runners, we see, because most of us are not elites, we just love running, so we keep running. First time I remember, I saw the Standard Chartered Mumbai Marathon that was happening, and that's where most Indians possibly started running. And later we saw a logo that said World Athletics, and there was logo of AIMS, etc. And then we started seeing there are something called World Major Marathons. Then there is a Wanda Championship, then various other things that keep coming in, and we keep seeing as runners how we look at all of these. And if you could explain the entire ecosystem of how all of this operates.
Sure. It's complex, but at the end of the day, it's not. It's fairly simple. So let's start with the simple organizations. AIMS. AIMS is an association of races. It's a club of race organizers who join together to discuss issues that are close to their heart. It's not a governing body. It doesn't have the technical monopoly on the sport. It's just a fairly well run club of race organizers. AIMS, however, is an organization that in the early 80s, when it was spearheaded by the greats of the sport, the Chris Pressures of this world, the Disleys of this world, all of these big race makers, Alan Stenfeld, New York Marathon, London Marathon, the guys who invented the mass sport as we know today, they invented and popularized the course measurement system. So for a number of years, it was the AIMS system. World Athletics, then called the IAAF, International Association of Athletics Federations, wasn't really involved too much in this business. Yes, we did have in the World Championships, in the World Championships in Athletics, that is the name that was used back then, there was a marathon, and we did have responsibilities over the marathon and the Olympic Games, but that was about it. It was an AIMS thing. Little by little, in the early 2000s, World Athletics started, the IAAF actually, started to play a more central role in the space by, first and foremost, recognizing the marathon performances. The marathon is an official world record distance. Now, this may seem a tiny, it literally changed 2 words in the rule book of World Athletics. just add the word marathon and a comma in the list of distances for which world records are recognized. But from that tiny decision, a whole host of consequences happen, meaning that now you need the world governing body, because now someone competing, someone doing a half marathon this weekend in Mumbai is competing with someone doing not just with someone doing a half marathon this weekend in Alaska, but with someone who has done a half marathon in Rome 6 months ago, and probably with someone who will do a half marathon in Sydney 3 years from now, 4 years from now. So standardization, this is the key word. This is what a governing body exists for in the first place. Primarily, governing bodies are created to celebrate the world championships of the sport and to make sure that, as I said, a marathon in Chennai today is equal to a marathon in Rome 2 years down the line. Okay. So in the early 2000s, World Athletics started to play a more central role there, created the Road Running Commission, and started to make sense of this movement. The label scheme was established around 2007, more or less. It was before my time, but at the Rome Marathon, I was on the receiving end of labels. And it was back then a way for the organization to get a foot into the door of the road running business, but also provide the recognition to the outstanding races. And the program was fairly popular right at the beginning. You're looking at 15, 20, 30 races, some of which from India. I think that the program races were among the first ones who understood and bought into the system.
Yeah.
Fast forward 18 years, and now we have 300 plus labels. Now, what is the World Athletics label? Yeah, World Athletics labels, first and foremost, certify that a competition is fully measured and compliant with the rules of the sport. So a competition is official. Performances obtained in this competition count for World Athletics for all statistic purposes, qualification to Olympics and World Championships, ranking points, top list, and you name it. They certify a certain level of organizational quality. So not everybody gets labeled. There needs to be certainty that the event organizer knows what they're doing. How do we assess that? In the case of new races, we may organize an audit. In other cases, it's self-reported. More often than not, we know the organizer, and we trust that if they've done a good enough job at race A, they will understand how the sport operates, and they will replicate that at race B. Crucially, however, when it comes to differentiation of the labels, why do you have platinum, gold, elite, and basic label? It's all predicated on the importance of the elite race that an event organizer has, right? Labels, the 4 tiers of labels, categorize road races on a global basis, and these categories translate into ranking points. Meaning, if you win the Boston Marathon, no matter what the time is, will give you a certain number of points, a pretty high number of points, because it's a highly coveted platinum race. If you win with the very same time a basic label event, it will translate to fewer points. Also, the higher the label, the deeper and the better quality the elite field is expected to be, and the more the anti-doping framework has to be. And additionally, since 2019, and this is something that I'm very proud of, because I can't think of many industries that do that, really. Race organizers from all over the world realize that the sport is healthy, the sport has a global footprint. However, the integrity of it, due to the sheer, and this might be slightly technical here, due to the sheer fact that most athletes come from only 2 countries, and the economic incentives are disproportionately bigger compared with the ability that any national anti-doping organization would have to monitor their pool of athletes. Long story short, we had to find money for anti-doping. So since 2019, 300 plus races contribute financially into the spot. We were able to raise last year almost 2.7 million US dollars. More than 90% of this is reinvested for anti-doping. And the remaining 8 or 9% is for a little bit for administration, but mainly for legal, because every time you have an anti-doping case or a dispute between NAR and an athlete, there are legal implications, as well as health and science. Another project that is really close. I don't manage this directly, but it's something important that World Athletics has done for mass participation races. Has been a constant, relentless upskilling of medical directors all over the world. We have a 4 people strong health and science team who works on a range of things, but probably their main project, certainly in terms of scale, is organizing these courses for race medical personnel, so that you could be more assured that if you're participating in a labor race, there is someone who knows what they're doing from a medical standpoint.
A lot of our listeners are organizers themselves, and so they're going to value it a lot, because there's a large PDF document that we have to read to figure out what is label race, how to. Now actually it's become a lot more straightforward. I remember earlier there were different other categories. There used to be bronze level, now it's become a basic level, and as you read through it, the table etc. makes a lot of sense. So please don't think it was long answer at all. This made a lot of sense, and I have now related questions. Now, so if I'm a race organizer, which I am as well, that is, if I'm looking at a race, that my race should eventually also grow to become something that I'm proud of, not only of my effort, but globally it should be recognized. What are some of the things that I should keep in mind from a quality point of view, from label point of view, is there any literature for me to refer to that will help me organize a better quality race than what I'm organizing even today?
Okay, because lots of questions rolled into one there. Let's start with the easy one. Is there any literature? To an extent, yes. It's not fully systematized, but World Athletics has resources. And as I said earlier, this industry is blessed with an unprecedented degree of collaboration. Leading race organizers, Chicago Marathon, London Marathon, they're very happy to put their knowledge at the service of up-and-coming race organizers, just because it's not a competitive business to them. They are so high up there that their main interest is to promote the sport globally, really, and they get it. Now, World Athletics has one of the projects that we currently are working on is to work as global repository for this knowledge. It's something that was already floated to us 5 or 6 years ago during the pandemic, when we had, in a way, more time on our hands. But back then, the artificial intelligence technology wasn't as pervasive as it is today, or at least we didn't understand it. So it would have been a massive undertaking to think that, okay, let's grab all sorts of documents from all sorts of races and let's make it available and translate it in languages that other people can understand. Because if you are the marathon of Helsinki or whatever, Osaka, yes, you probably have extremely detailed documents, extremely detailed protocols, but they would be in Finnish or in Japanese. Thanks to technology now, we have the ability to make this wealth of data available to the whole world. And there is a conversation we are having indeed with one of our partners about, is there a way to AI power through an AI agent make this knowledge, this body of knowledge, available to race organizers worldwide? The answer is yes. We're working on it. It's not immediate, but we're getting there. Now, what is that? The other part of your question was, what do race organizers have to do to scale up the races, to make the races better? Well, in reality, there are no two races are similar in the world, and no two races are established for the very same desired effects. What do I mean by this? Different entities in different parts of the world organize races for different goals, with varying degrees of involvement of the public sector, with varying degrees of, nationalism element. So it doesn't mean that a race that is older than another one, or has a longer history, or is bigger, is necessarily better. It certainly is different, but it's not necessarily better. I will give you a very simple example. I was never, this year at the Mumbai Marathon, at the Tata Mumbai Marathon, my mind was blown away for a number of reasons. I was very naive. I didn't expect the India running scene to be so sophisticated. And that's fine. And at an initial level, I thought, oh my God, this is almost, world-class stuff. And when it comes to the entertainment and the social impact, is truly among the best in the world. To me, the most impressive thing that I realized at the race, that I noticed at that event, was the start line of the, I can't remember how they called it, the fun run, the one that goes after all the marathon.
Dream run.
The dream run, exactly. The dream run. standing there on the start line for maybe 40 minutes, looking at a representative sample, I guess, of if not Indian, at least the Mumbai society, with all sorts of associations, all sorts of charities, all sorts of NGOs, you really understand why that event is that way, because that event is is besides a fantastic elite race and besides a fantastic sporting testing ground for tens of thousands of locals and travelers, it also is a political platform for the greatest democracy in the world. That is very much India. As every organization has, the right, constitutional rights. I guess I'm not an expert in Indian constitution, but I guess to make their case, to make their voice heard. Would that same thing work in London or in Milan? Probably not. Probably they don't even need it, because these pushes of the society are addressed in a different way. Which one is better? You can't say, because they are two different products. Is this a clear enough example of what I mean by different races take different forms based on where in the world they are?
Yeah, and I think this also, I guess, keeps reminding us running is so inclusive and so diverse at the same time, that it just incorporates everyone
completely.
And the success matrices are so different for each of the states, each of the races, each of the countries, and you put it very well. And possibly the only sport where everybody gets a medal, and that's participatory medal, than people having to win. And that satisfaction, whether it is in Mumbai or it is in Milan, it's very similar. The joy is very similar. And so what you're saying is absolutely right, that in some way or another, every race is different, and that could be their success metric to go towards. Now, moving forward from there, I had a bit of question around from elite participation point of view. You talked about that the moment, if the race goes up in the label, higher chances of having better elite field, of course, because of its own merits. And so we have seen that in India as well as other places, various races that are known for different things. And we have also seen, we as recreational runners, as we start to run, we start to be aware of world major marathons. Earlier it was 6, now it's 7, including Sydney, and it's like our holy grail, our success metric for us to be able to complete all of this. How the world major marathon comes together when you look at from your lens, and how would you define that runners be looking at these races?
Now, World Marathon Majors is fully independent from World Athletics. We know them extremely well. They are good friends of the sport. Actually, let me specify one thing. Yes, World Athletics is the federation of 213 national athletics association. Okay, so in principle, a race cannot be a member of World Athletics, but de facto, we are the family of the sport of athletics. So, every World Marathon Major, even your races, you too own a little piece of World Athletics. If World Athletics makes a decision that impacts you, and I really like to think that when we make decisions, we try to factor in everyone's point of view. So World Marathon Major is formally there is no link between World Athletics and World Marathon Major, neither constitutionally nor contractually, but in reality they are big stakeholders of the sport, much like ASICS is or Nike's or TCS, right? So these are entities that constitutionally are not part of the World Athletics constituency base, but they have a big stake in the sport. Now, World Marathon Majors was established some 15 years ago, initially with 5 races, then Tokyo was added, and now they're in the process of further expanding the series. Yes, it is the holy grail of marathon running. They've done a spectacular job over the past few years at establishing a culture of personal achievement, if you wish, constant improvement through preparing for a marathon. And none of them, not one single person anywhere in World Marathon Majors organization or in the different races does it for money in a way. Obviously, they're businesses, they're incredibly well-run businesses, but all of them do it because they love the sport. And their greatest dream is to is to have this global marathon movement, really, to make this marathon movement as global as and as pervasive as possible. They are great people to work with.
Got it. No, thank you for clarifying. And I think I did have some idea that it's not connected, but I feel it's connected in a way that both are interrelated, and are reasons for both of these to be successful together. Because if the races are successful, World Athletics will feel proud of it, and continue supporting, and vice versa as well. Why I also asked this is because I also mentioned that a lot of race organizers in the country listen to this podcast, and what they are looking at, hey, we've been doing a lot of good things. Do I need to be certified by World Athletics? Should I go for labels? Because it has certain cost implications for the race. And so they want to look at budget, they want to look at brands that will support them, etc. If you were to explain to them, how will it help them as they go up, first to even start with the label and then go up the chain, how will it help them and their race from a global perspective? That will be of great value.
Oh, because that is a great question. Thank you for asking. So certainly what I would recommend every race to take is a World Athletics course measurement certificate. Okay, make no mistake, it's not an AIMS course measurement certificate, because as I said earlier, World Athletics is the governing body, so we have the unique responsibility of administering the technical side of the sport. Yes, we do it in cooperation with AIMS. We recognize their role in establishing this product, but it's a World Athletics certification scheme. World Athletics certification is free of charge. You only pay for the measurer services. We are working hard to create more measurers in India. We know full well that the number of World Athletics accredited measurers in India right now is nowhere close to what is required by such a large, diverse, and booming country in running terms. But yeah, to get a World Athletics course measurement certificate, all you need is to have your race course measured by a World Athletics accredited grade B or grade A measure. It can be from any other country, right? So if the Indian course measurers are enough, feel free to go beyond the country border to find more. These certifications are free of charge. And why are they important? Because without this certification, the race is not, well, for two reasons, really. One is it's a guarantee to the runners. It's another added marketing tool to the runners to say, my race is World Athletics certified. You can rest assured that it's exactly 21.0975 kilometers long, my half marathon. Even more importantly, at least for the earlier you mentioned, when are we going to have an Indian Olympian in the marathon? Well, let's start to create that ecosystem. The World Athletics Measurement Certificate is a starting block for events to become part of the World Athletics calendar. This is not labels yet. It's one step prior to labels. But what do you need to do that? Course measurement certificate first, and secondly, your national governing body, in this case, the Athletics Federation of India, needs to enter the race in the global calendar. The cost is very small. For World Athletics, only charges $25, 25 euros, which is $28 for races to join the international calendar. So this is the bare minimum. I recommend as many races as possible to do that, because this is how you give competition opportunities to your local athletes. If Indian athletes don't have enough races in India to score ranking points and to qualify for Asian championships or for whatever continental competitions you have, then they are at a disadvantage vis-a-vis, for instance, Japanese or Chinese runners who have plenty of measured competitions. I believe that in India there are right now a few tens of measured courses. People like Hugh Jones from AIMS and Dave Candials formerly from AIMS. They are great friends of World Athletics, and we should really pay them our respects for having popularized the sport of running so much in India. So relentlessly try and get more and more races. Then labels. At which point, go on. Yeah.
I have a point. So you said the course measurement is this is World Athletics course measurement.
Yes.
And then there is the AIMS course measurement different than this?
There is no such thing as AIMS course measurement. It's one program that is managed by World Athletics in cooperation with AIMS, but it's a 100% World Athletics program. Yes, races can choose to become AIMS members. There
Got
certainly
it.
is a value to that. The biannual AIMS Congress is a great event to attend. It truly feels like being part of a global community. AIMS membership range should be around, last time I checked, $900 a year. But again, this is fully independent from World Athletics. Okay,
Got it.
Nothing to do with World Athletics. Once races have obtained this measurement certificate and they are part of the global calendar, they can choose to become a label. Now, this is when things become interesting. Now, a race that gets a label, why should races get a label? Well, to stand out in a crowded market, for sure.
Yeah.
Races, a label is a quality mark, is a prestige mark. If, as a race organizer, you want to convince your permitting agency, your traffic police, your city that yours isn't just another race that around the block, but it's an international competition, a World Athletics label is a way to do that. Okay, we have 4 tiers of labels. The first one is the basic World Athletics label. One mini introduction there. We used to have, as you correctly pointed out earlier, bronze label and silver label. We did away with them because bronze and silver automatically imply that someone has, been better than you. Whereas because it means you've arrived third or second. Whereas the current taxonomy goes like World Athletics label, self-sufficient, and then elite label, gold label, platinum label. Each of them is beautiful in its own right. Doesn't really give any messages that you're second to anyone. Okay. The basic label, the basic international label, is important because it's when the jurisdiction of a race goes from the national governing body to the international governing body. Obviously, the national federation will always have to approve the race going from the national to the international level. There are more ranking points up for grabs for the athletes. And as I said, it's prestigious. It's the first tier of international events. Then once an event organized, and I recommend to races that don't really have ambitions of hosting big elite races, I really don't, against my own interest, I really don't recommend to go beyond the basic tier. It's not expensive. I think it's ranging between $1,200 and $3,000 in 2025. And it comes with very few strings attached. Then the number of in-competition drug tests to be done is minimal. You're an international race. You can boast them to your runners, government, sponsors, you're good. Now, the minute you start having a good elite race, you might want to consider pursuing superior labels. They give more ranking points, hence your races become more attractive for athletes, so that because they can score more ranking points, which are important for them as they try to qualify for the Olympics and World Championships. The gold label is almost the holy grail. The platinum label is the absolute holy grail. But platinum label is a inevitably very restricted club. We can't have too many. We shouldn't have too many. And frankly speaking, with the way the sport works now, it's unlikely that an elite athlete, a superstar elite athlete of the level you need to have if you have a platinum or even a gold label, will go to races unless they can run fast times. Do you see what I mean? If there is a 205 marathoner, a 206 marathoner, this person would much rather finish 10th at the Seville Marathon or at the Valencia Marathon, but they can run faster because these are very fast races, as opposed to finishing on the podium and perhaps winning the Singapore or the Hong Kong Marathon, which are very prestigious races with very high prize money, but for weather reasons, you can't run as fast there. And this is down to the economics of the sport. These athletes are professional and they want security. So they know that if they run 205, no matter where in the world they've done it, even if they finish 10th at the Valencia Marathon, they will get 25, 30, 40,000 sponsorship money, as opposed to a chance of maybe winning 100. And they will take the most, the safer bet. So this is in broad strokes the difference between the different labels.
Got it. And also the elite field. Do organizers need to reach out to different elite management companies to get the international elite field in their races? Because I'm seeing here in India now, at least last year I saw a few for sure were the label races in the country. I'm not sure if you remember how many are there in the country, but it seems like the interest is growing. So how should one go and set up the elite field?
Label races are, every race organizer is free to go to the market to find athletes. And when it comes to elite athletes, you have, I don't remember how many, but certainly more than 200 World Athletics registered ARs, athlete representatives. Of these 200, maybe 60 or 70 manage distance runners. It's fairly consolidated, Probably the top 5 or 6 agencies manage 80% of the best runners in the world. But yeah, in principle, a race organizer is free to work with whoever they want, as long as, and this is a World Athletics rule, the elite athlete can either self-represent, which happens fairly rarely, can be represented by their national governing body or by a World Athletics registered AR. And as a race organizer, if you are part of the label system, if you are on your own, not under my jurisdiction, AFI decides. But if you have a label, so in the case of one of your events, and you're dealing with elite athletes, you shouldn't be working with unauthorized agents.
Got it. And these information, just for information of organizers, these information can be accessed by organizers
Absolutely.
through World Athletics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just Google World Athletics athlete representatives. It's probably easier.
Okay.
Google works better than our own internal search engine, so go for it.
Yeah, and now the ChatGPT works even better.
Even better, yeah. With caveats, though.
Yeah, no, for sure. Awesome. It gives great insights into how the label system works and how should organizers look at it and how the runners should look at it. Makes a lot of sense. When you see from global lens, and I'm asking about India, I know you love India. We all love India, but
I don't know
how
India
do
well
you
enough,
see?
unfortunately. But hopefully that will change.
How do you see the growth of sport that's been there in the last few years, and what do you think how and what all we should be doing in addition to what we are doing anyway to make it even a better place of running?
Because I truly am not qualified to talk beyond the sport that I know well. I know that in India, for decades, the discussion as to why don't we have more Olympic medals? We're such a big country. We're such a rich country. Why can't we have medals? This conversation happens all the time. And I mean, if you haven't figured it out, certainly I can't figure it out. But from the standpoint of the sport of running, which is the one I operate in, I'm seeing positive things, and that's one other of the things that blew my mind in Mumbai. It's not just a matter of having one beautiful event as a white elephant, and then nothing else, and then the show lets down and see you again in 364 days. But there is a whole ecosystem that has been created, and companies like yours have certainly done a good job at that. The Athletics Federation of India understands that. I think that now there even is a higher political mandate, a sort of national mandate to create a 360-degree sport ecosystem that goes from hosting great competitions to having great athletes, not just in the traditional sport. So inevitably they will come. It will fall. It will have to rely on sustained investment. Talent identification is not something that happens overnight. I'm slightly more familiar with the Chinese case, and I know that they are going to great lengths to identify the gold medals of 2036 and 2040. Already some years ago, this work was starting with a blend of local and international scouts, coaches, physios, you name it. World Athletics is doing its bit. We have a kids athletics program, which is it's not what I do, but kind of relevant here. It aims at creating a basic layer of track and field education for, hence also running for school kids all over the world. We are doing our president especially is doing a hard job at lobbying governments worldwide. And a few months back, he did meet with your prime minister during a visit in India. And I don't know exactly what they talked about, but certainly they talked about creating more sporting opportunities for pupils in the country and bringing athletics into more and more schools, because that is the advantage we really have vis-a-vis any other sport. It's the most fundamental sport. So any sports curriculum, any PE curriculum worldwide should have athletics, should have track and field. And it's looking promising. It's looking promising, especially because you have the brands behind. There is, just to give you an example, an association called the World Federation of the Sports and Goods Industry. All of the big players are there, from the outdoor sports industry all the way down to the bike industry. The Nikes of this world, the North Face, the Rafas, every company that is committed in the manufacturing sports goods, and they have an interest in creating more and more sporting opportunities, right? Not just because of a superior goal of sport is great. Also, most people really live and breathe sport on a daily basis, but primarily because of business needs. So their community is now all pulling into the same direction, and I really am positive that in the next 5 to 10 years, it will be impossible to ignore. It will be impossible to ignore that governments have to invest in sports, not just spectator sport. That's one thing, but I'm not sure that it really does marvels for your kids' health. And if you want to have, especially as your country creates a large and booming and healthier and healthier and wealthier middle class, you will have this problem going forward. There will be, and as you already said, an obesity epidemic. There will be a mental health epidemic. And how do you solve these problems? In a number of ways, but running is probably the most cost effective. Athletics is the most cost effective.
Yeah, no, indeed. And it's great to see that it's been growing at all levels, with brands, within corporates, at community levels, with municipal corporations, police forces, almost everybody supporting. And I guess it's just the start. I hope as you keep visiting India, you'll see more and more progress coming your way from us to you, and hopefully contributing in the ways that should be. It's been a meaningful conversation, and we started from one end and went to the entire different end of the spectrum, but covered great length. I think this is going to be a wonderful podcast for the race organizers particularly.
People think that World Athletics is a almighty organization. In reality, yes, we can have an impact, but at the end of the day, we are a mid-sized organization, 100 people in one office in a small European state. Through race organizers, however, we can truly reach tens of millions of people. Already now, if we count all the people that are reached directly by the 303 World Athletics labor races this year, you already are at 6 or 7 million. But on top of that, think of all the people who don't make it to the races, all the people who are not successful in the lotteries. And then, as a study found a couple of years ago, and I'll be happy to share that with you, the ripple effect of mass participation events is real. If you train for a marathon, if you run a marathon, you're getting fitter and happier, and you're taking control of your mental health, and you have meaning in your life. But by default, your kids, your nephews, your first circle friend, you can influence up to 6. This is mind blowing. You can influence up to 6 levels of you can influence people up to 6 degrees of separation. So potentially hundreds of millions of people are impacted by this. So I really believe that we should support race organizers as much as we can. Again, they are not direct constituents of World Athletics, but if I'm helping you do your job, and then next year you bring 40,000 people to run your race, then I have delivered on my constitutional goals of promoting athletics. Much, much better than if I wanted to do it from my little office here. So that is the whole philosophy there.
No, indeed. And what you said is so right. And we see it almost every day, but maybe we don't see the scale at the unit level when we are seeing in isolation. But if we just look at how runners are, they talk to each other. They always talk about running. Someone else gets positively influenced by running. Any party they go to, they're always talking about running, or shoes, or all good things. Carbon shoes as well. And what you said is so right, that everybody around them knows that this person is a runner, and that person has been a reason for many people to pick up that sport. And all of this helps so much. And most of the organizers in India I've seen, They have been runners themselves. And that's how they started to create community events. And now it has become a large ecosystem. And what you said also is very right, that they do not just engage on that one day. Barring one or two race organizers, almost everyone that I know, they connect with the runners every alternate Sunday, if not every Sunday, at least. They're doing some community work here and there, and so I think it's such a lovely spirit of this sport itself, and it's great that we are part of it, and we are running it, living it, enjoying it while doing the business that it
No, it's
requires.
pretty fantastic. We really are lucky to be working in a sport that probably has the deepest and farthest reaching impact of all, really.
Yeah.
Yes, football is a global sport, certainly, but does it make the same good to people as running? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. Both sports are great, but running is the mother of it. But thank you so much. Thank you for joining today.
Pleasure, Vikas. Thank you very much. Take care.
That was all for today. I hope you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed speaking with Alessio. Keep listening, keep running, and keep giving us feedback as to what can we do better. Goodbye.